like one of my best largest killer in the world. The Suns.
I never really
Well,
I mean, how about calling?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to. He just retired and he's headed up he was the
You're not exactly.
Did you steal?
All the way down.
Actually, you were making a joke about it.
No, this is a great market. This is a great market.
No. Well, I was going to get my megaphone, but hello, everybody. Hello. We are small but mighty. We are Pointe Angels. Wow, what a month since the last time we were here. So the elephant in the room, Silicon Valley Bank, and the reverberations through the Angel ecosystem. And I think what I have observed, and I'm kind of looking for validation here, is that the reverberations have illuminated something that was always there, and now it's much more obvious, and that is that there is not one Angel ecosystem. There are at least two, and probably quite a few more, just in the United States, because where our colleagues on the West Coast are just gasping for oxygen and wondering what their portfolios whether they'll ever recover, the Pointe Angels portfolio had a single hit, one, from Silicon Valley Bank. They don't matter here, west of the Rockies, east of the Rockies, east of the Mississippi. And that one company got full liquidity 2 days later, made payroll, and is moving everything to Chase. So I see this through the lens of opportunity. There's a bunch of deals now that can't happen. And the innovation ecosystem is just as potent as it has been every month this year, which has just been rocking. And less angels to go around. We have pick of the litter now. Thank you, SVB. That's my take on it. And we have an actual banker here. Am I blowing smoke here? Does this make sense to you?
So I have actually learned sort of there. I talked to somebody whose son was working there on the tech side. Actually graduated from Grosse Pointe South.
All right.
Who was working there on the tech investment side at SVB. I think a lot of what they were doing was non-traditional. I think they were actually raising the capital first, putting the capital on deposit at the bank, and then the bank was largely lending against.
Well, they were handling the cash calls for the VCs that way.
Yeah.
But insofar as the VCs were then encouraging their portfolio companies to also bank at SVB, that's where we heard the reverb. In terms of VCs having an interruption in their fundraisers, cry me a river. But we do need them. We need them to fund our companies when they grow them up, and then of course to ESOP them out or to do the M&A financing. So there is still ripples, but I'm not clutching my pearls and rending my garment over this one.
Dave, just a question here. It would seem to me like I read just a little bit, but I don't really understand that someone buy the pieces of that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine the functionality just goes away.
Somebody bought the pieces of Lehman Brothers. So yeah, that the fact that there are customers means that it never goes away. We worry about the ventures that don't have customers. Are they really ventures? This was a venture.
I think the business model that that bank had was pretty unique. They were actually taking warrants in the companies.
Yeah.
Which is interesting to me because I took synthetic equity in some companies back in the Great Recession. And
You're not old enough.
yeah. There's a lot of rules and regulations as far as banks owning equity in.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
The other doesn't have the exclusivity is that they would be
Yeah.
That's a lesson learned.
Yeah, so when you talk about people other banks buying, I don't know if the business model gets rebuilt somewhere or not.
But it seems like the particular events that tripped them up were nothing necessarily. I mean, like,
Oh, yeah, they're basically.
No, it's bad treasury management.
yeah.
And the fact that Dodd-Frank got rolled back just accelerated.
They did not have the director of risk assessment.
So elephant in the room is no elephant. We're still open for business. We're still rocking and rolling. We're still seeing really good innovation deal flows. We'll see tonight. And we had a Booth Management School Chicago venture approach through the Next Step Accelerator and asked if they could present tonight. And I said, sure. So we have a preview from Avana Health, which has roots in Michigan and in Illinois. And then really excited to see venture presentations from NOTA Labs. Malcolm Kahn and I, there you are, we talked about this early in COVID and just got around to the right time, and he can tell us why. And then also from Sniffer Robotics, from Art and Bob, if you're watching, hello, in Arizona. He should be, yeah. So it's a really gassy program between nitric oxide and methane. This is Peter with Avana, and then we'll get to the main event.
I'm Peter Payholt, co-founder and CEO of Avana Health, a women's health company focused on treating critical unmet needs. For too long, women's health has been underserved and underinvested, leaving large gaps in care and big opportunities for improvement. For instance, there's a problem in women's health that everyone knows about, yet it's been normalized. Women are told, deal with it, because we don't have something better. It affects 1 out of every 3 women, yet it's likely underreported. In the US alone, we spend $33 billion on 33 million cases per year. I'm talking about abnormal uterine bleeding. AUB is a broad term that describes problems with frequency, duration, and volume of blood loss outside of pregnancy and includes heavy menstrual bleeding. Right now, gynecologists and emergency room physicians lack an option to provide acute, durable relief to women that present with heavy uterine-associated bleeding in healthcare environments. Well, Avana's co-founder is an OBGYN with 38 years experience. From treating patients in high-tech hospitals in Nashville to rural clinics in Tennessee, he knows the right solution needs to be simple to use, easy to scale, safe, and fast-acting to facilitate outpatient procedures. He identified an off-patent drug that creates a fast-acting clotting cascade, but it had never been used for uterine treatments because there wasn't a good way to deliver it. So we created our own delivery device. We filed a patent to protect this kit, both drug and device, and plan to file additional ones. With initial angel and pre-seed capital, we laid the foundation for success. We brought on another co-founder, our chief scientific officer, who has worked in over 40 countries with Gates Foundation, WHO, and UNICEF, designing studies and recruiting patients that are in our go-to-market population. He helped us show proof of concept that this system works within 3 minutes. That is orders of magnitude faster than any alternative, and is safe. Part of our advantage is that we're leveraging a drug that's been used for 50 years. This reduces unknowns and risks to both patient and investor, while allowing us to potentially accelerate our development and commercialization plans. More so, Avana's treatment system can be applied to a far deadlier problem, postpartum hemorrhage, which is the leading cause of maternal death globally. We know that we want to do something very hard. Improving standard of care doesn't happen in a day. And changing minds isn't easy, unless you know your audience. Fortunately, Avana is co-founded by an OBGYN. Plus, our director of research has a PhD in nursing. She's someone who's lived with abnormal uterine bleeding for 20 years. We understand that practitioner and patient perspectives. Our advisory board includes the professor in OBGYN that wrote the international classification system for abnormal uterine bleeding, and has introduced us to all the top experts in the field, from the former FDA chief for gynecology, to a pathologist that's worked on many high-profile uterine clinical trials, to key researchers around the world. Together, our team knows how to do this work because we've successfully done it in the past. So looking ahead, we're raising $900,000 to conduct our first clinical trial in 2023. Looking beyond this year, we foresee multiple exit opportunities for investors arising in the next 3 to 5 years, most likely via acquisition. In reviewing recent deals, 3 acquisitions include companies with drugs in areas adjacent to abnormal uterine bleeding. Those sold earlier in the development process, after phase 2, and for close to $1 billion each. Avana has developed a business strategy for a similar exit prior to phase 3 and Series B. That said, if it's in Avana's economic interest, we will just proceed with that phase 3 trials. So, thanks David and Pointe Angels for the opportunity to present today. And I look forward to meeting everybody when I'm back in Michigan. Thank you.
Questions you may have about Avana Health. I'll either give you the contact information or I'll collect Q&A. He's going to be back in Michigan. Will you please set up the cable on your laptop, Malcolm? I will get out the timer. Ed will find a seat. And we'll wait for the man back.
Yeah, so bad.
Right, so you will see yourself.
Oh my goodness, I have to look at myself.
You don't have to, you can look at us. But you'll also see this fella in the monitor, and it's counting down to 0.
Of course it is.
So I told you I met with Malcolm a couple years ago, and at the time, there was this, I'll call it a tech transfer pipeline of you pick the lab and then you pick the commercialization entity. And we've seen this before. Malcolm was reintroduced thanks to Dave Rep, who's in venture creation with Innovation Partnerships, formerly known as University of Michigan Tech Transfer. And Dave reached out one-to-one and said, look at what Malcolm's doing now. Like, I know what Malcolm's doing. So, no, look at what Malcolm is doing now. And we presented that to the screening team. Screening team thought it was pretty cool. So without further ado, Malcolm Kahn, your 15 minutes
Oh, thank you.
begins now.
There we go. Well, thank you very much, David, and thank you all for having us present to this evening. So I like to start my presentations with a simple question. What if I found a molecule that could treat dozens, literally dozens of various kinds of medical problems, you'd probably give me the Nobel Prize and a pot of money, or in this case, a bag of money. Well, I'm here to tell you that after 2.8 million years of evolution, 2 researchers, in fact, did find such a molecule, and they found it in a very peculiar place, right inside the human body. And so nitric oxide is throughout our bodies. It's a really quite unique molecule. It's an antimicrobial agent, antiviral agent, so it's found in our sinuses. It's found in our lungs. It's a vasodilator, helps us oxygenate our blood. It's found as a platelet inhibitor. It's found throughout our circulatory system, and it keeps the platelets from aggregating and clotting, so it's quite useful in open heart surgery. It's a wound healing successful treatment, and it's an anti-inflammatory, able to reduce or even eliminate reperfusion injury after your heart is restarted in open heart surgery. So market needs, lower cost. Mallinckrodt has been out there for 25 years. They had a picket fence patent strategy in this area and prevented everybody else from coming in. In 2018, Praxair won a legal action against them. Almost all of their patents have been invalidated. And so that has allowed other people to come into the marketplace. New approved indications, Mallinckrodt was quite happy. They had $600 million of sales. No, real need to do additional clinical trials. Although at the present time, there are over 400 active clinical trials in nitric oxide going on today. And so systems for home use, COPD is the mother of all applications. It's a real problem. 35 million Americans have COPD. It's the 3rd or 4th worldwide killer after cancer and heart disease and so forth, but it's right up there with them. And so it's very important for COPD and for home systems, and higher concentration systems for bacterial and viral infections that are coming along as well. So our beachhead market is pulmonary hypertension of the neonate. That is the single application that is currently approved by the FDA. And that is where we're going to enter. That market today is about $800 million in total. A good deal of off-label use as well. So the second largest application right now for nitric oxide is in open heart surgery. And so we're aiming that as our second area of focus. We are already doing animal studies at the University of Michigan. We have additional money from a grant, $450,000 from a grant that we're doing additional animal work on. But thus far, control groups all died, 100% success rate, and no problems after surgery kind of situation with all the porcine animals that were tested. And of course, I mentioned COPD already as the big opportunity for the future. NOTA licensed 2 of the 5 NO generating technologies from the University of Michigan. And why now is we have 2 of the 5 that exist in the world. Mallinckrodt, as I mentioned, picket fence patents are gone, 400 active clinical trials, and critically important, we will not require clinical trials to go after the PPHN application. So that is a huge saving of $10 to $25 million, depending on how many patients you actually have to test. So here's our system. We have actually 2. It's not a one pony stable. On the left-hand side is our Lenore system. It's a light activated system. Let me pass this around. We immobilize an NO donor molecule onto a backing material that is in a film strip, and that film strip advances in front of LED lights. LED lights knock the bond or destroy the bond between the NO and another molecule that is carrier, and that allows the pure NO to come out of the system. It's portable. It has an internal backup system, so if something goes wrong, it is automatically switched to the backup system. It does auto calibration. It is extremely easy to use, and a single cartridge will last 2 to 3 months in use, typical use. Let me just go back for a second. The second system on the right-hand side is an electrochemical system. That's used for the future, very high concentrations of NO, can go up to 18,000 ppm of NO, can treat all kinds of infections, and is quite useful to bubble through an oxygenation circuit in open heart surgery, not just given to the patient directly, but in the circuit that is oxygenating the blood while the heart is stopped. So if you look at the advantages of our Lenore system over the competition, Mallinckrodt, Paxair over here, Vero Biotech, and Beyond Air, also 2 on-demand systems that have recently been approved. You can see that we have some substantial abilities here beyond what the competitive systems do. Price is certainly one of them, although I'm not one to try to go low. What the market will bear is what we'll introduce at, but we've done our modeling at $50 an hour, and the market is somewhere between $80 and $225 an hour at the present time. And so we will be in a market opportunity with pricing that we can go as low as necessary. And by the way, $50 an hour for us gives us an 85% margin. Gross margin for the sales. And you can see here, our system is about the size of a small woman's purse. And Knoxbox has 2 large tanks. Vero Biotech, 2 separate systems, not very portable. One of them is a backup system. And then you have Beyond Air on the right-hand side. That little box is about 35 to 40 pounds. So it's not very mobile and useful for moving patients around. Team-wise, we've assembled, I think, a great team of developers at the university. Mark Meyerhoff started the company along with Uma Sajan. We have a relationship with Bob Bartlett's laboratory at the university. He's doing a lot of open heart surgery work and doing now, well, he's the father of ECMO. And so that is an open heart surgery circuit that is used for long-term care for people who have long-term problems that need to oxygenate, waiting for a transplant, or they had some kind of accident, etc. We've got a great team of scientific advisors on the right, a couple of doctors at the University of Michigan, one of them being an infant cardiologist. My background, just by way of a little introduction here, is most of my adult life as a serial entrepreneur. I started out at Pfizer for 9 years, worked there, and have been in the analytical instrument business. I've been in the lab on a chip business. I've been in the membrane filtration business, and with NOTA now for over 3 years. Glenn Martin is out of Abbott. Again, a lot of experience in the areas that we're involved with. Becky Dollar here is our VP of operations. She comes from a line of medical device companies, so she actually knows this area quite well. We've also done a corporate partnership with a group called NGK out of Japan. These are the largest spark plug manufacturers in the world. If you've heard of them before, I don't know. But interestingly enough, obviously they have a buggy whip and they've been diversifying, and the medical space is one that they're in, and in particular respiratory infections. And so NGK purchased CARE, which is the third largest or second largest oxygen concentrator business in the world. And so the hand in glove for COPD in the oxygen concentrator and NO business is a real opportunity going forward. And so we have a joint venture with NGK as well. They've also invested $2.5 million through a venture capital firm called Pegasus in California. And so our money has been coming from them, and they will be seeding this next round with $1.5 million of the $6 million round going forward. We've also been out there getting our partnerships in place. And so we have a regulatory partner that will help us with the FDA submission. We have a software developer that will be doing our software for the medical side. We have a film coating company, electronics company, and a company that delivers to us the basic building block of this film that we coat. That's called GSNL. So our accomplishments to date, well, we've got $6 million of NIH grants. We have an alpha prototype complete. The chemistry is done, the electronics work. Obviously, they're not all tied down and put into a small box yet, and that has to be done. The coating technology has been worked out. Sensor and feedback loop all is functional and working. We have an operating software that we're using today, but not right for the medical space yet. This is development software, and we have our key suppliers, as I mentioned. To-dos, obviously, we've got to finalize the electronics and reduce its size. We're going to put this in a very small box. Human factor and medical software development has to be done, finalize our consumables and so forth, and verification and validation is really critical and time-consuming area where you have to actually test a large number of systems before the FDA will give you an approval. So our roadmap here, we will be done with our alpha prototype by the end of this year, pre-production by the mid 2024, FDA submission in early 25, and selling by the fourth quarter of 25. Okay, the whole route to market requires $38 million. A huge chunk of that, starting in 2025, is oriented toward a rental pool, because this is a rental business, right? It's an hourly rental market, which I love. I hate to sell equipment. You have to sell it over and over again. This just is like a cash register that keeps on going for long periods of time. Our Lenore go-to-market strategy, 510K or what's called a paper PMA. We're not quite sure which way the FDA is going to go on that. They're thinking about that. Recurring revenue model, I mentioned. Distribution through third-party reps. We'll be using NGK probably in Europe or in Asia, and distributors actually in Europe. And we'll be servicing, because this thing is so small, it's only about 11 inches by 11 inches by 5 inches. So it's tiny. It weighs about 10 pounds. You can stick it in the mail, and if servicing problems occur, we can just do that kind of exchange program. And our target audience, respiratory therapists, pulmonologists, and of course, hospital administrators, because we can be much lower priced, and they will have a significant interest about that. The three key markets that we're going after: pulmonary hypertension is there. Then we're going to move into the cardio bypass surgery and COPD. We're also looking at heart attack and stroke patients. We think that's a huge opportunity. This can be used by first responders. If you get NO to a patient that has a stroke, within the first hour, the likelihood is that they will survive and recover. It is that important. So very large market, and we will be able to ride the coattails of others who get indications approved, for these other areas like bronchiolitis, very large application area that others are already working on. Our sales forecast here for the next 5 years, we anticipate, as I mentioned, entering the marketplace in late 2025, do about almost $8 million, and then that ramps up to $70 million in the second year. We actually reach cash flow break even by the end of that year, and that's an important aspect of this, and of course 85% margins on our overall business. We are fully covered by patents. Nogen product has been out there longer and developed longer, so it has already been approved. We haven't had office actions on Lenore yet, but I expect that we will get the patents through with that product as well. So we're aiming to build a solid company. You never build an exit, right? You try to build a company that has value. However, it is likely that within 1 to 2 years, NGK will buy the company.
Did you have one more slide?
I did have one more slide. And if you'll allow me, I can spend
I'm
one
just
more.
I'm gonna ask you a softball question. What's your next slide?
Was there anything else you wanted to relate?
But we can also have an exit to some of these larger tank-based systems. And of course, then there's the Medtronics and Abbotts of the world that are all in the respiratory business. Finally, our ask, $6 million, Pegasus Tech Ventures and NGK, $1.5 million this round. We will or do have a second investor interested in putting in $750 to $1 million, and we are looking to round out the round with $2 to $3 million. That's our story.
I have
Questions?
questions.
Oh, you have a million questions.
Just so I understand, in the neonate, they're breathing it.
Mhm.
So it's a gas
Yeah, all of these applications are gas
through inhalation.
for inhalation.
In cardiopulmonary, is it actually being used for the organs, like perfused directly? Or are we talking about?
Actually, in open heart surgery, the whole cardiopulmonary area, you stick it into the oxygenation circuit, right? The heart-lung machine, right? And so quite high concentrations are used in that heart-lung machine. Blood has a lot of buffering capacity, so there's no problem that you would experience when breathing it, because your lungs you have high concentrations, get oversaturated and they acidify. And so, yeah, it's right into the heart-lung machine, and that helps oxygenate the blood, but it also reduces, because of the antiplatelet aggregation feature of NO, it reduces the clotting in that circuit. And that's why it's so useful for ECMO. So ECMO is a long-term use of a heart-lung machine for months on end, right? And the biggest problem that they have is clotting, right? The circuit clots very easily. And so we will prevent that clotting from occurring in that kind of application.
We say that there's a dose response in pharmacology, and so too little, you don't get the effect. There's the dose that gives you the response you're looking for, and then there's toxic dose.
Right.
So how are the dosages being adjusted? Is it concentration in the gas, and is that something you can vary with your?
Excellent question. So we actually have a tube that comes back from the patient's mask, right? And we have sensors, NO, NO2, and oxygen sensors inside our device that are looking at that, and a feedback loop that controls the concentration. So we either speed up this little belt, or we increase the intensity of the LED lights in order to control the concentration.
I was excited to see COPD and want to understand what is the off-label payment process. Does a COPD patient or a sickle cell patient get to use the neonate codes in order to get this reimbursed? How have you navigated that?
So right now, there is no reimbursement for off-label applications. Okay, the hospital is actually eating those costs. So for difficult open heart surgery applications, right, where the patient is going to be out for 3, 4, 5 hours at a time, that's when the doctor's ordering NO and they're eating the cost, right? So it's an interesting off-label application that is not covered by insurance, and they don't bill back on the codes associated with
The only code you have is.
I'm sorry.
The only
The only
you
code
have is-
existing today is PPHI.
You guys are paid by the hospital.
We are paid by the hospital.
Right, so you see
Right.
off labels.
Right.
You guys. Yeah, so, hey,
So by the way, there's an NO wizard right here.
So I'm not a plant, so. This is really cool. So I'm a pediatric cardiac ICU physician at Children's Hospital.
Did you arrange this?
But
He's a plant.
This is really exciting. So one of the interesting opportunities that I see when we do nitric oxide therapy in patients, we get, the hospital is generally on us like hawks about the use of nitric oxide for that very reason. And so if you have a solution that's 50% of the cost of traditional nitric oxide, that opens up a lot of off-label uses because these tend to be really state patients where we often get clearance to use them on off-label uses because they are so high-stakes cases. So if you're saving 50% approximately per use case, I mean that's a really big deal and opens up a lot of opportunity for you guys in terms of your applications beyond just sort of standard pulmonary hypertension, ECMO. Because there's a lot of ARDS where nitric oxide has a tremendous effect on those patients, but we just are very restricting how much we can use it because not because it doesn't work, but because the hospital is restricting.
So it's interesting, when Mallinckrodt was out there for so long, right? Their pricing was $175 to $225 per hour, believe it or not. And that's for 20 ppm. Nothing, right? And now, Knoxbox from Praxair came in, and they're about $100 per hour-ish in that range. And so, we can go down to 50 as based on our modeling. We've done that modeling at $50 an hour. I think that we have enough features, however, that we could kind of push that up a bit and, maybe even get up to 100. But depending on how things look in terms of market penetration and how quickly we want to do this, maybe the right thing is to go and just go for the $50, right? So
Get an investor who will stake you to go for 25, kill all the competitors, and then
you could certainly take that approach.
I don't want to monopolize it.
So why are you able to do this so much cheaper?
So we've got it's kind of interesting. The gas guys have a logistics nightmare, right? And so most of their cost is in moving tanks of gas, right? And so that has been marketplace. And it's quite interesting. If you look at the hospital side of that logistics nightmare, that's not even included in those costs. And there are some hospital reports out that say every tank is enormously more expensive because of those logistics issues. We are getting pure NO off this molecule. The molecule is very cheap for us that we're putting on this coating. And we're getting that pure NO, so we don't have to over-treat it. If you're looking at the other on-demand systems, they're going through, one of them starts with N2O4, which is a highly toxic gas. They convert the N2O4 to NO2, another highly toxic gas, and then they convert it to NO. And so those machinations and the cartridges that they use for that have to be replaced on a very regular basis, right? So, there are a lot of complications that can occur in this business. We've simplified this. Luckily, this, pure NO comes off. There's nothing there that has to be converted or retreated, and it's pretty inexpensive for us.
How stable is this? The
It
logistics.
lasts for a couple of years. Once it's open, at least 6 to 9 months. So very safe. You just can't expose it to light. So it's in an encased cassette. So once it's exposed to light, that's when the NO starts to come off.
And at what point are you buying it? Already manufactured in this?
We're manufacturing, yeah. We tried to buy it, have somebody actually manufacture it for us, but it's quite interesting. I don't know if you know anything about coating technologies, but the precursor for this is almost like water. And so it doesn't lend itself to many coating technologies, it requires a specific kind of coating. And most of the companies.
Came out of my house.
I'm sorry?
Is that the magic that came out of my house?
No. Actually, they were spray coating. The Home Depot kind of sprayer. Yeah. But you know, these coating systems, I mean, they just run. You can run. Matter of fact, the coating machine we're going to buy is quite small, and I think it will run about 60 days a year. Yeah.
So where's the IP?
I'm sorry?
Where's the IP?
The IP is all protected. It's all from the university. They did the original patents. We have added a number of patents after that for both Lenore and Nogent. And so those patents that we've created inside NOTA are still in the process of being, receiving office actions. But the core patents are from the university.
And is it in the reaction?
Oh yeah, it's covering any optical for Lenore, any optical conversion to NO of any model. So they're pretty broad patents. These are not just device patents. They're pretty fundamental patents to the means of generation. The Nogent system that we have is an electrochemical patent. So any time you convert using an electrochemical system, those are covered by our patents. It's pretty broad.
I find it interesting with NGK, that's an interesting partner.
Yeah.
If you go back in time, beyond spark plugs, they were one of the companies that did oxygen sensors.
Yes,
Well,
you're absolutely.
converters.
NO sensors, NO2 sensors.
Yeah,
That's
so I
right.
mean, that's.
For automobiles, that's right.
What is their acquisition of Claire? What is Claire?
CARE is an oxygen concentrator business.
Zeolites?
Zeolites.
Now I've got a really stupid question that
There are no
I
stupid
want you to
questions.
answer. So in the name of your company, I know what NO stands for, which T is, I think stands for technology.
No, it's now I'm forgetting. That's funny. I forgot.
We'll just say it stands for technology.
So the answer I wasn't able to.
Outside Technology Associates.
No, it's not technology.
Arabies?
So two questions, and I'm not looking for immense detail, but I'd be interested on, one for the $50 an hour. What are kind of the big blocks of cost in there? Where is that?
Well, in manufacturing cost.
No, I assume that the $50 an hour is delivering, nitric oxide to a patient.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes. So
So
every time that's on, it's a clock.
So is that the coated material or?
So the coated material, so you have this cassette, and the cassette is on a feedback loop with the sensors as the.
Yep, understand the loop.
Okay, yeah, you got that, okay. So the cost of the cartridge is really pretty cheap.
Yeah.
The whole system is really pretty cheap. The biggest cost we have is distribution. Medical distribution is just a fortune. And so this model that I built is 45% to distributors, third-party distributors.
And that's so 15% of $50 an hour should be the cost, if I understood.
Correct.
And that distribution cost is inside of the 50.
No, no, it's not inside the 50 because the 50 is sales, but it falls out the bottom. So total sales times 45%, third-party distributors. And then we're also supporting those guys with regional managers to make sure they're out there promoting, et cetera. So marketing and distribution costs are the biggest part of any drug kind of product.
Can you go over that again? I didn't follow. So is it 15% is the
15%
cost of
is our total manufacturing cost. That includes the cassette, but it also includes depreciation on the equipment. So we're taking the equipment. It will cost about $3,000 to build, right? We're taking that, we're putting that in inventory, right? And then over 5 years, we're depreciating that inventory. But every year, we're adding refurbishment costs, et cetera, along the way to keep it fresh.
Malcolm Kahn, NOTA Labs. Stick around, Malcolm.
Yes, absolutely.
You've got a lot of curious people here. Which
Well,
is a
that's
good
a good
sign.
thing. Thank you.
Yeah, that's
Great.
a tribute to what you're doing.
Thank you very much.
All right, could you
Yes.
come hook up your laptop and I will give you a brief intro. And Malcolm, I have to apologize to our stream watchers. Stand behind the microphone. And the folks at home will hear you better. I don't think they couldn't hear you, or they might have just screamed. That's more a note for you, Art.
All right, thank you.
So as
I have a stupid question. Where's the hat?
well, Becca,
Oh, thanks.
that's stupid. You gotta go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really?
Oh yeah, thanks. So Sniffer Robotics is like the belle of the ball right now. They showed up on the watch list for I want to say Michigan Angel Fund for Skip. And Skip, he's got a really rigorous process before he puts it in front of his committee. And in the meantime, you got a lot of invitations.
We did.
Yeah.
We're fortunate.
Which is, so you play the hot hand. This is within at least Michigan Angel circles. We're very happy to have Sniffer Robotics with a really compelling venture that is all, once again, Michigan IP. You're all hooked up. I don't have to vamp
All
anymore.
good.
Okay.
All good to go.
Without any further ado, Art Moore, your 15 minutes begins now.
Well, first of all, I want to say, Malcolm, that was really interesting. I found that fascinating. I don't work in that industry, but very well done. I thank you very much for the opportunity to be with you today. I'm the founder and CEO of Sniffer Robotics, and yes, we're based here in Michigan, based out of Ann Arbor at Spark. And we've been in business since about 2017, but we didn't really formally start the business until the end of 2019 when we commercialized the technology that really was started on a white paper napkin, quite frankly. So for those of you who might recall ozone and freon and all that, and the issues in the atmosphere, we have that today relative to methane. And you're probably reading a lot about that today. Certainly in the oil and gas industry, where the atmosphere is really being a garbage dump in many respects, and we're trying to clean it up. The waste industry is the third largest methane emitter. We focus on the methane industry, and our purpose in our business is to better account for, detect those emissions in the waste industry. So more specifically, from a mission standpoint, we help operations better detect and account for their emissions through industry-leading automation tools and software solutions, resulting in improved compliance standing, improved gas collection, and the reduction of odors. We have built a business based upon the technology. We're already in business. We are doing business with major companies in the industry already. We provide technology-enabled services to the waste industry. We have developed a patented unmanned aerial system, a drone technology in essence, that is the first and only approved technology for this purpose by the US EPA. We're currently operating in 25 states. Last year we did over 800 projects. I'll talk a little bit more about that. We also provide manual boots on the ground field services to complement our aerial services. We have software that we've developed to support the data that we're collecting and transferring that data to information. We have first mover advantage, and we're the industry leader relative to this application. So a quick visual on this, we're collecting data, and we're doing that primarily with our Sniffer drone technology, we call it. We also do it with our manual field technicians. We've developed software as well to help in the collection of the data. And we transform that data to visual data, geographic data, geospatial data that our customers have never seen before. We take what's invisible, we make it visible for them. And then we run analytics on it as well that help them to better operationalize or improve their operations, I should say. So the Sniffer drone, as I mentioned, is patented. We had our first patent with approximately 20 claims. We have 2 follow-up continuation patents as well. It is designed to be an automated method for collecting methane data in essence. We are not drone manufacturer. We have a bolt-on system to a commercially available drone system. What I want to emphasize here is that it's a patented platform. The way we do this, which I'm going to talk about, is quite unique. It allows for extension relative to further sales and further technology development. We did receive US EPA approval on December 16th. It's unique and differentiated. So let me explain what we're doing. You'll see that that drone is roughly 6 meters from the ground. It has a hose that's extended to the ground, and we are dragging that hose on the ground. Very simple when you look at it. It has a weighted nozzle. The hose is flexible. That's part of our intellectual property. We do that so that way the hose remains on the ground as the drone is flying at 7 miles an hour. Right? We are collecting air samples at the ground, pumping them up through the hose to the methane detector that's on the drone. We're able to measure that methane from 1 ppm to 100%. And while that drone is flying at 7 miles an hour, we're able to localize where leaks are on that landfill. So we're able to identify leak sources, and we take all the data that we collect, and we take thousands of data points over these landfills. We report every single data point with latitude and longitude and GPS coordinates. So the other thing too is that our package has a laser guided system on it. So that we take over the whole airframe of the drone. We have the software that we developed such that drone will follow all the contours of the landfill naturally to keep the hose on the ground. The reason why that is so important is because the EPA requires the owners of these landfills to inspect their landfills at least once a quarter for methane emissions. And they do that by having people walk these landfills, technicians walking these landfills. An average landfill in the United States is 100 acres. A technician will walk upwards of 20 miles to do that work. That's over 3-to-1 slopes in vegetation, slip, trip, fall hazards all over the place. It's just, and you'll do it up north here where it's in the snow. You'll do it down south where they're dealing with gators. I have walked these landfills. I've been in the industry for 15 years. I have sea-level access to this industry. I know it quite well. Our purpose was to design an automated system that emulated somebody walking. That's why we got US EPA approval. There are other technologies, but we offer the industry's best solution to do this. So we find more methane leaks more safely, efficiently, and effectively than any other technology out there today, or the only one that's approved by the US EPA. The benefits are we improve compliance records, we improve the credibility of operation. Right now, you have a technician doing this work all by themselves. They hand a piece of paper to the site owner. These are where your leaks are. Nobody believes it. It's all subjective. We have data and technology behind it. It's credible. States, regulators enjoy the technology as well because they can count on it. We can help customers identify leak sources and quantify those emissions as well to help them build business pro formas to help them remediate those and know what the costs are to do it and what the payback is in doing it. We help decrease landfill odors. Methane is odorless, but we identify more leak sources, and the chances are those leak sources are also emitting H2S, methanes, and other percaptants, or VOCs, I should say. We also reduce exposure to interveners. So as I mentioned, we're already a proven commodity. We have all the major companies, investor-owned companies in the waste industry for waste management, the largest company in the industry. We already do business with them. We've operated in 25 states, including the U.S. Virgin Islands. I have people right now, as we speak, in California, New York, Iowa, and Minnesota doing work. We've averaged 2.5 to 3 times sales growth over the 3 years that we've been in business, commercialized. We have a 70% ARR, so 70% revenue, rollover revenue year to date, year annual recurring revenue. We did 800 jobs, and the business continues to grow. Our sales strategy, go-to-market strategy is direct sales to the waste companies. By the way, I didn't mention, we also operate in the oil and gas industry, more specifically in what's referred to as renewable natural gas. These landfills are through the decomposition process, they generate gas. Most of these companies, waste companies, install gas collection systems to capture that gas and repurpose it for energy. Big market right now is the renewable natural gas industry. We do work for them. We do work for Southern companies, DT, Opal, and others. Again, it's a sticky business. We get on set with a sniffer drone. We offer a layer of services as well. And we're already building brand awareness. The overall market is about $1.5 billion in the waste industry for emissions management. One element of the market that, as I mentioned before, being able to tell our customers where the landfill gas is emitting and put a value on that for them. The industry last year emitted over 80 million metric tons of methane. If you're looking at $30 MMBTU value, which is an RNG value for it, it equates to $6 billion that industry is letting into the atmosphere. We can help them reduce that. So that's an opportunity for us. That's not yet even taken into account here. The market we serve is growing. Emissions management services quite substantially. If you take a look at RNG as an example, that market is growing at 40%. Software solutions for emission management is double CAGR as well. So our market focus, for those who might know this industry, is strictly the municipal solid waste market. This is where you have waste that has organics in it and it generates landfill gas. We focus on investor-owned, privately owned, and municipalities. We have about 25 national accounts that we do business with directly. We have about 2,000 purchase order customers. And this is an industry that there's a lot of specifiers and influencers here. And again, we've satisfied that through the US EPA and our ongoing involvement with the regional or with the state regulatory officials as well. So you may have heard about satellite technology. That's all the way on the right. Satellites are out there now monitoring what are quote unquote super emitters for methane. All you have to do is do a Google search for super emitters. You'll see a lot of that being discussed. All the way to other drone manufacturers, direct competitors who are in the drone space. Nobody can do what we can do. The satellite companies, their customers are Bloomberg and other philanthropists, as well as regulators. Regulators need eye in the sky because they don't trust what they're getting from the industry. They have pretty pictures, but their unit of measure is kilograms per hour. The EPA forces companies to remediate based upon concentration level. So everything that they discuss and promote in the media has no impact on the industry. It's corporate shaming. Our customers are directed to the waste companies. The information we provide to them is proprietary. We can't give you the pretty pictures, we have them. But we have more comprehensive data, more precisely, much more specific than anybody else has in the industry. There are two things that we offer. We have US EPA approved leak detection with our technology. We can also quantify emissions. We can do it with a great deal of accuracy and precision. So from a financial standpoint, we closed last year at 1.3 million. Excuse, that's a little wacky there. When we take a look at the top line, it's fairly easy for us to estimate the top line. It's based upon the number of sites that we forecast that we're going to be on. Last year, we were on 100 sites. We see an opportunity to be on 500 sites out of 2,000. We know what our average reoccurring revenue is per site. Our objective is to grow that. So right now we're about on average on 100 sites. You can do the quick math, but it's over 11, 12,000 a year on a site. We have one site that we do over $100,000 a year on. So there's a lot of elasticity here in the potential. And those are sites that are generally have fines because of odors. They're out of compliance. And the state says, we trust this technology. And there's one here in the state. They've said, and they've specified as public record, we have to fly that site every month. All right. And there are many sites out there. So we have fairly clear visibility at the top line. Even though we're a service business, our service is at minimum 60% gross margins. And that is our primary revenue generator today. The other two revenue generators are the fact that we have already interested partners in Canada. Today, I took calls from Poland, Portugal. I mean, the list goes on. Because of the US EPA approval, we have tremendous international interest. We aren't going to be a service provider. But what we see is us selling them the platform, and we would have them use that platform or solution for capturing data. They would put in our software solution. We would do all the analytics, and then we would do that in our license, and we'd give them the information back. So there's the third channel for us for revenue generation, software licenses. So we'd have revenue from services. That will drive the majority of our business. We'll have product sales, and we also have software licenses. So we see 20% EBITDA by 2025. We nearly broke even last year. We're bootstrapping this business, frankly. I've been the largest investor at this point. And we feel that we can make money here shortly. But we want to take money, we want to invest it in our technology, into product sales and scale. So we're right now in asking 1.5 million in seed. David had mentioned we did sign a term sheet with Michigan Angel Fund. They have soft circled money, as well as a number of other people. We're probably about 80% of the way there in terms of the total money that we're looking for. It's a preferred stock option. We have two calls, 1 million and then 500,000 90 days thereafter. We have a pre-money valuation of 5 million. You know, we're looking, we want to take that money and put it, as I mentioned, into scale, product sales, emissions quantification, continue working on the algorithm, do some further testing that would allow us to tell our customers very precisely what the flow rate of this gas is and be able to put a dollar amount on it. And we've been working with a major university on this calculation method, and then new market expansion. That would be in areas like Canada and elsewhere. We've already had a number of companies approach us to buy us. Frankly, two things. Number one, we thought it was premature because most of those conversations occurred before we got US EPA approval. And secondly, our revenue is low, and we just see a tremendous upside here where if we can keep on generating the EBITDA or hit our targets, we'll be worth a lot more money than what we are today. But we have serious interest. There are sensor companies, there are drone service companies, national drone service companies, there are consulting companies, there are other call them service companies that are doing vegetation management and other things outside the waste industry, or looking at an opportunity to come into the waste industry, and we fit their business model very well. Lots of opportunities. There's no doubt that we're very valuable to these companies. So, in summary, first mover advantage. 2 seconds? Well, 20 seconds. First mover advantage and leader with US EPA approval. We have a firm foundation with the industry's major US players. Large, necessary, and growing market. And we are intensely focused on a very substantial, necessary, and growing market. Thank you.
Thank you all. Go back a slide, please. There. No, one more. There's a little opacity here that I want you to break up for me.
Sure.
Yes.
Human
You want the
capital.
opacity to be transparent.
Opacity.
I gotta write that down.
Write it down. How much of that 600 is sales and marketing? How much of it is product development? How much of it is G&A?
Well, for the 600,000, it's really working capital for, or to support working capital with human resources, right?
What
So-
are they doing?
Yeah. Okay. So we will have sales. We'll have a complimentary salesperson. We will have a controller on staff. We have a full-time CTO as well who's going to join us. We're going to have some GIS folks internally, and we will then supplement with field folks based upon sales demand. All right. So that's not in the 600,000. But we already have a CTO right now who's part-time who will join us full-time. We just hired somebody who is part-time for us, but will more than likely grow into a full-time controller. So we have all these folks already pretty much identified.
So if you could make those investments, next slide, on those early exit opportunities, take the folks who are in, who are drone service providers and sensors, folks who are in adjacent spaces.
Yeah.
And make them customers so they don't try to duplicate your mojo. What would that do to your growth curve?
Well, a couple things. The assumption there is that right now they will be direct competitors. All right. And
Not
we
your
are,
customers.
well, we aren't really being approached by our customers to buy us. We're being approached by adjacent companies who are interested in buying us,
A
right?
drone service, we
So-
had one in here last year, a drone
Mhm.
services company who wants to expand their service offerings
Mhm.
to the landfill space. And they make a tender offer and you turn them down, but then you turn around and say, but if you were to invest in us, we will be your exclusive blah, 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 and we'll give you a seat at the table at auctions.
We've had not those specific type of discussions. And the reason being is based upon a valuation we felt was very low at the time.
Got a really compelling pre here.
Yeah, now that we're US EPA approval, certainly it could be different. We already have an active discussions with partners. And, from a service standpoint, our focus right now, if you're familiar with I-35, runs from Ely, Minnesota down to Laredo, Texas. Yeah, I'm very familiar with all the interstate highway systems here, but we want to pretty much own the service from I-35 east. And the reason being that is the vast majority of the waste market. Okay, so we will have our service group there. When you look out on the West Coast, we're looking at partners. We're looking with some very substantial companies that can partner for us. They would use their own pilots to visit these sites and do the work. Then in places like Canada and elsewhere, other countries, the same type of model. We would use them as partners. So there are opportunities for that, right?
Well,
But we have
likely
not
you
had
want a
that.
bigger exit.
It's a possibility, right? I wouldn't say no. I mean, the business that we have right now, we haven't necessarily said no. We just put the foot to the pedal. And we've been very clear with people who have approached us to say, look, we know this market. We know what we can do. Nobody thought we were going to get US EPA approval. By the way, US EPA approval specifically says only Sniffer Robotics. Okay? So that's part of our IP. So, yes.
Oh, I was just gonna say, you made me think about the other drone companies, so they want to get into landfills. Does your patent, your IP moat, as it were, protect some other drone company or whoever from having the hose with the nozzle to drag across?
The primary claim for us is so again, it's written around the EPA regulations, our whole technology and how we developed it. So the technology the EPA specifies that the measurements must be taken 2 to 4 inches from the ground. So our IP and the patent clearly says in order to do that, you have a flexible or you have a heavy weighted nozzle that can be dragged through vegetation with a flexible hose to absorb shock with a drone that follows the contours of the landfill to keep it on ground. So we feel very confident about that. Now, there are light-based systems out there, like TDL lasers that point down the ground, but their unit of measure is parts per million per meter. They give you an average concentration value within that spectrum of light for the distance of light. Well, they can't identify leaks because the EPA says the site owners, if it's over 500 ppm, they have to remediate it. So if you're measuring an average, how do you know what the specific is at the ground? And plus, they're measuring plumes. So now you're on a wild goose chase trying to find the actual leak. And there's one thing about landfill owners. They don't want you looking for leaks, right? So, we have a bit of credibility here with our customers in the sense that we're very precise. We find more leaks, but we're also very precise in how we do it. So we aren't wild goose chases doing it.
Or to be fair, your cred begins from, you're not a carpetbagger, you're from the industry.
Yeah, that's right.
You're speaking the language. You want.
Did you say,
Who else is up?
you also say that you had from Michigan Angel Fund, you had a term sheet or
We
something
do.
like that?
Yeah. And they've already soft circled, I think, 200,000. We just got a Michigan Capital Network just signed 250 today. And we have Michigan Rise was 150 We have Desai family, 100,000 out of London. We've got, we're under due diligence with TAM Miami with, gosh, so many. I can't get, Bob is our CFO. He could take you through it all, but he's
And
not
the good news
speaking,
is,
but we have a lot of
an
momentum.
MCN, we have access to diligence. Did you have one?
Yeah, you're currently CEO and will be CEO through the.
Oh, yeah.
Can you just describe your experience?
Well, I have about
growing
30 years
a
of
Mexican
corporate,
organization?
sure. I have 30 years corporate experience. I've lived in Europe as an expatriate. I've done international business in 6 of the continents, primarily in the automotive and glass industry, but for about 15 years I've been in the environmental sector. What brought me into this into the waste industry was solar. I was repurposing landfills for solar energy. Was a subject matter expert of that, where I had a lot of involvement with the EPA, where I helped write some of the standards in terms of repurposing landfills for solar. That gave me a lot of access to the financial side of this industry, as well as operational side. And so that's given me a lot of insight. And frankly, walking landfills and watching people do this work, I said, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. And so I saw with the solar industry, I saw that industry really develop quite incredibly. And I see in the drone industry, right? And so I just said there's an opportunity to do this. I met back in 2016, I wrote a white paper. I met with a number of subject matter experts on robots. One was out of Lawrence Technology, or Lawrence Tech, who was a subject matter expert, PhD on spherical robots. And so did a technology evaluation and found out that the drone was the best platform.
Yeah, so clearly that is the subject matter expert.
Yeah.
You're suited to it. I was kind of curious as a CEO, you have experience managing an organization the size of your type of.
Yeah, I've managed organizations much larger than this. Yeah, that's right.
Was there a team size up there?
There was not. I can talk to you. We have 16 people. Our CFO used to be the treasurer of Herman Miller. He also helped take a company, an IPO, solar industry into NASDAQ. Considerable financial backing background as well. He's very senior, and really I've known him for a lot of years. His name is Bob Densman. Our CTO is a mechanical engineer from University of Texas. Has considerable instrumentation detector background as well. He used to work in Ann Arbor for H3D, if anybody knows that. He also worked for IBM, has multiple patents under his name. It's kind of happenstance how I met him with a job posting on Angel List, long story. But he is right now part-time because his wife got her PhD at the University of Michigan, and they moved to Pittsburgh to do some work there. But he will become full-time after the successful cap raise for our business, and we'll end up working here in Michigan. So that's our core. We have really good GIS and software developers as well. Those are mostly interns, frankly, out of University of Michigan. We've done really well, and Michigan State. I'm a Spartan. But even though we're based out of Ann Arbor, a little conflicted. Love them both, I should say, for the Wolverines. But we have a really good team there. But admittedly, as part of the cap raise, we're going to strengthen our technical team, right? We've relied a lot on external technology partners. We will still do that, but we will have better program management and better technical expertise internally that we can, communicate a clearer vision and do one much more quickly to bring products to market. And
The question: do you own the data that you collect? It is already out there.
It's a very good question. In some cases we do, other cases we don't. In the case of waste management, no, we don't own the data. That's one thing that we're careful about because we have intimate contact with landfills, unlike satellite technologies, right? But we're trusted because of that, right? So if we go work for municipalities, no, that's not the case. We own that data. So we can still aggregate the data, and we still do.
It lives in your service.
It does.
Waste management wants to know where the leaking pipes are. They log into their account on your server.
That's right.
Exactly. And you can report out to the industry.
Yeah, we are already doing that right now. We've reported here 2 months ago that we've identified, nobody else can say this, 16,500 methane leaks throughout the United States.
You should go into the plugging business.
Well, that's there's an opportunity there. Yes.
Just a simple question. The drone is piloted by a person
Mhm.
or?
Yeah, it's piloted by a person. He or she pre-programs XYZ coordinates. Z direction is managed by the drone itself with the laser system in a closed loop. We can always. I don't see an opportunity here because it's also part of the regulations. The EPA wants people to keep eyes on the landfill because you can see signs of methane, water percolating, or disease vegetation. Our pilots are flying with a 4K camera. So if they see areas like that, he or she can deviate. And once they deviate to capture the data, they let go of the joystick and it jumps right back on its path and keeps on flying. So go ahead.
So I'm just trying to understand from the perspective of a landfill, where you should be more productive and more accurate.
We are, but we aren't cheaper.
Okay.
So that's important. We can be,
Right.
but we provide much better quality information and data. And we're getting a lot more money than other people doing this. So typically people will say to me, what value do you offer to the industry? If you aren't cheaper, forget about it, right? And I say, no, you're missing it. This industry is under a great deal of pressure, externalities. You got satellite companies, you got regulators who are changing regulations. We in Maryland just passed a regulation that said people walk in landfills instead of doing it with 30-meter spacing. They have to 30 meter, which is 100 feet, now 25 feet.
Wow.
So you have people walking, and then they have to look 25 feet over, go here, walk back again, and do that. Okay. We have an automated solution to do it. So costs are going up. My argument to our customers is we offer cost containment. Your costs are going up. We're giving you a lot more credible information. We're doing it in a much more effective, efficient solution than what you have today. Now, fact of the matter is, we know we can be about 30 to 50% faster than anybody doing this job. So my objective is to make money, right? So,
Yeah, question. So do you have any contracts with specific landfills or companies to be exclusive providers?
we work off annual contracts with them. They're rollover contracts, and nobody's going to give us a contract in this industry that says exclusive. You have it for the next 5 years. There's always going to be potential competition. But we are talking right now with some companies about long-term contracts, multiple-year contracts, and the reason being that the US EPA has specified our technology and our name. And so our customers are a little bit concerned about that because of locking us in, and all of a sudden 1 year later we double or triple our prices, right? So they want a long-term contract to protect themselves against that. So that's ongoing discussion, right? But no, we work off annual contracts based upon that stipulate the number of visits we have through the year on those sites. Okay.
You're 70% annual revenue renewal. What's in the 30%?
That's a good question. So up to this point, before EPA approval, we were doing all this work from a drone standpoint for studies. In other words, people wanted to benchmark our technology, or they had compliance issue or odor issues on the site, and they really wanted to get a good handle of it. So sometimes we'd go on site for a couple times. And yeah, exactly. The other part of it is really for compliance, right? Where we're on there and we have an operating rhythm, we're giving them information, they want to keep that going. Or they have a very severe problem that we're involved in. If we lose business, it's not because of cost. It's really, in many cases, about solving their problems from a study purpose. Okay. We did a very large study for the state of Minnesota, as an example, that affected our AR. They wanted us to come out and benchmark 13 of their closed sites in the full state. We worked directly for the state. It was a one-off project. Okay.
Do the satellite company, because satellite companies could be a driver of business for
They
you
are.
because
You got it.
They take a picture and they go, hey, you've got a lot of
Perfect.
methane here. So the landfill.
Right. They once were dumped, but they're truly engineered systems. Really, that's a fascinating market, but go ahead.
Still probably ratchet and shit and stuff. Anyway,
True.
but so the satellite guys come up and say there's a bunch of methane. So then the owners hire you guys to come and find exactly where the leaks are. Because you can't tell from outer space.
It's really a good point. I was talking to the Vancouver this morning.
Yeah.
Okay. And they have a number of landfills there, and they wanted to bring us up there and to do the work. And they said, tell us a little bit about the American market. And I said, well, unlike you, because you're a municipally owned, waste company,
Right.
you guys care about the environment. Here, municipalities don't care so much about it. What drives it are the investor-owned ones who are getting corporate shamed, who have ESG standards, right? And they don't want to see their name in press.
Right.
Let's
All right.
put a pin in that. That's
So-
a great point that you raised, Ed. Let's do that one over
Yeah.
drinks,
Yeah.
and we can get to our updates.
Oh,
Thank you, everybody.
Art Moore.
Really enjoyed it.
And, your own plate.
Oh, okay, thank you.
We've got a couple of updates that we come from Point Angels portfolio companies. One of the very first that we invested in, and actually two of the earliest investments that this group made back in 2019, 2020. So I want to reintroduce you to Dr. Patrick Hines, who was asking such interesting questions of the earlier presenter. And Patrick is the CEO of Functional Fluidics. Patrick, what you been up to?
Dave, thanks for the opportunity. So, hello everybody. Patrick Hines. I am a pediatric cardiac ICU physician, founder and CEO of Functional Fluidics. What we do is we're in the red blood cell health space. And so red blood cell health is a new and emerging industry in healthcare because we're developing a lot of pharmaceutical therapies that modify the health of red blood cells. And of course, red blood cells are the deliverers of oxygen to all parts of our body. So this is going to be a really big mediator of health and wellness. And we are first movers in clinical health, red blood cell health assessment. And so since the initial investment back in 2020, we were initially focused strictly on pharmaceutical companies and supporting their drug development through preclinical validation all the way through post-market validation. Since then, we are now in the clinical testing space. We've got pilot sites that are currently using the test to assess patients in the real world. And we're seeing that we can predict outcomes in patients with primary red blood cell disorders like sickle cell disease. And so that's our lead indication right now. That's where pharma is investing. We've got active contracts with Novo Nordisk, Novartis, Pfizer, and two of our largest customers have been acquired by Pfizer and Novo Nordisk. So we're really growing and showing a lot of traction in the red blood cell health space in pharma. Providers have been picking up usage of the test in the real world. So we're collecting a lot of real world data. So in addition to our platform technology, the data is going to be a really important decision support tool for pharma and drug development. And so that's one of our milestones here is to grow that real world database, double it in 2023, number one. Number two, we want to identify our second indication beyond sickle cell disease. So sickle cell affects about 100,000 patients in the US, 25 million worldwide. We're looking at peripheral artery disease as a second indication leading into our A round. And that affects about 8 to 10 million people in the US, primarily Medicare population. So very different population, but still largely impacted by the health of red blood cells. So we're really excited about that. We're closing a bridge round now, a bridge to an A. So it's a $3 million bridge. We've got 2.2 million committed, 800,000 is left to go, and we're looking to close that by the end of April. So we'd be excited to talk to anyone who may be interested in participating. And I think I'm under time, and
You got lots of time.
Oh, really? Okay, okay. Well, that's really what we're up to. Growing our real world database, using and leveraging that as a decision support tool. You guys invested in Ripple Sciences.
We did not.
Okay. Well,
I love it.
great company. We got a nice collaboration with them to manage our data that we're growing. in our
Science
data.
is a clinical trials management platform. It does recruiting and data management. It just eats a tar out of Red Hat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And so it's a Michigan-based company, so it's really showing some synergy there with Michigan-based startups that we're collaborating with them on the data management system. So we're really excited about that as well. Let me use the time. If any questions, I think you want to take that afterwards.
3 million, what's your use of funds?
Use of funds, we're growing that real world database. So we've got 5 pilot sites, 2 in Florida, 1 in Mississippi, 1 in Michigan, and 1 in Children's National Medical Center in DC. And we want to expand those sites. We're about to close on University of Miami this month. We're going to close on Henry Ford, and we want to close on Michigan State. So we want to grow in Michigan and Florida primarily because we've got the most traction there. There's reimbursement that we're working on, but that's not the real value from a monetary standpoint. It's going to be the data growth that's really going to be the big driver of the
You have reimbursement from the clear.
Yes.
You want to expand from the other state. Did you present a few years ago?
I did.
Yeah.
I remember.
It's a portfolio company.
Yeah, so you want to expand from sickle cell vertical where you got started to PAD?
That's right.
PAD is a substantially larger market.
That's right. So it made a lot of sense for us to focus on a small rare disease market. As a small company, we can really capture that market and own it. We've got a lot of competitive advantages there. So once we get consistent, we're going to have more consistent reimbursement by the time we move into that next indication. So same test platforms, plug and play, larger indications. Yeah. 2 of our major investors are vascular surgeons out of Fort Worth, Texas. So they deal with a lot of peripheral artery disease. That's one of the reasons they invested, because they see red blood cell health as something that modifies risk of restenosis after they place these stents. And peripheral artery disease is sort of like a heart attack outside of the heart. So leading cause of stroke and limb-threatening ischemia. So big time clinical endpoints that we think modifying red blood cell health can significantly improve outcomes.
Patrick Hines, functional fluidics.
Right, thank you, everybody.
We are so pleased and gratified to have Justin Turk from Livegistics. I think really our very first. You pitched in 2019.
Now this is 2019, 2020.
We were first money in.
Yes.
All right. There's gonna be a first.
Doesn't matter.
If you're behind here, it helps because the folks in the watching us on the stream can hear you better. So stand where I was. Justin Turk, Livegistics.
First off, David, thanks for having me here, and I see some familiar faces. I'm the CEO of Livegistics, B2B software platform where we connect commercial material suppliers, landfills, processing facilities to transport and self-performing contractors and OEMs. It's funny, I'm heard Art. We've got some similar customers. Do a different thing, but obviously we're in the same space. I took a couple notes because I wanted to make sure I covered it.
I thought your notes were excellent.
Were they thorough? I know you gave me a couple things I wanted to make sure I covered. So as David mentioned, I don't know if it was 2019 or 2020. Okay. Either way, it was a few years ago. Yeah. We've been on quite a journey since. 2021, we won a national competition, over 2,000 companies, $1 million award. We got a lot of press about that. 2022, we raised a seed round. Since then, last year we did 1.2 million. This year we're on 3x growth. I was talking, so our start was in landfill, a lot of waste. Waste management is one of our customers. GFL, and I don't want to name exactly all of them, but when you think about the waste market, what I always like to say is you can tell a lot about somebody's garbage. So for commercial construction, that's where we start. And it's really a story from operations to sustainability. Our software is installed in scales in 7 states right now. On top of that, some of our biggest customers, Barton Mello Civil, who's using our software here in Michigan, as well as the largest EV facility in Kentucky. Let me think about what else I need to say. As far as customers, we think about customer success. We're really big on network. So we think about the construction space, heavily paper-based, heavy labor-intensive. a lot of red tape, a lot of oversight with the EPA. We check all those boxes with our software, but it's a tough barrier to entry. So when you think about walking into a waste management, walking to GFL, it's really tough for a small company to do that. So we really rely on customer referrals. One of our customers who was using our software at a WM facility actually got on an email and said, you know what? The number 3 largest landfill facility in the country, I'm so excited about what we did at waste management. I'll pay to have this facility, this software in that facility. That's number 3 in the space, and we're onboarding 2 other landfills right now. On top of that, independent landfills, which is a huge market. We had an independent landfill in Colorado who had never heard of Livegistics. One of their customers who was using this at a Colorado landfill said, hey, I'm never coming to your landfill because you don't have Livegistics. I said, what is Livegistics? He made a call. 4 days later, we closed the deal worth up to $160,000 in 2 years. So the reality is this is heavy on customer network. I came from the space in 18 years in the construction industry, spent a lot of time in waste. I was vice president, chief estimator of a large company here. I really believe that the power of the network is not just in operations, it's in environmental, it's in sustainability. We're checking all those boxes as we scale. So once again, thanks for having me. Justin Turkey, Livegistics. Any questions?
Thank you, Justin.
Are you currently have
So we're considering doing a bridge round, a bridge later this year, only because I'm headed to Pittsburgh tonight. I've got a meeting tomorrow with the Capital Region Manager of Waste Management. That's Pittsburgh to Baltimore. And we're on an MSA with the number 2 largest landfill facility in the country. And we're just getting started with number 3. So there's an inflection point where if all of these things sit at the same time, we're going to need to pull on some resources. So,
Waste management, a customer?
waste management is a customer of ours. Yes.
Okay. So how many other landfills, what percentage of the landfills use your software?
So right now we're in 24. We're in 24 in 7 states. I'll have some news breaking here in Q2. They own 276 landfills, and we're working our way toward
They have
that goal.
270 here and 24.
We're in 24 right now.
Got it. Good.
So compare your competitive chart from 2020. How is competition changing?
Honestly, so I just got back from Connex, which is, I don't know if anybody, it's the largest construction show in the world. And some of the largest companies in the country, which is like Command Alcon, who has software installed in like aggregate pits, suppliers. We're working on strategic partnership because the barrier entry is we are already at the waste space. Our software is either installed or we're in pilot or we're negotiating a contract with 70% of the companies that own the special waste market. So
Cloud-based.
it's all cloud-based.
Yeah,
we don't use any
right.
hardware.
Right.
So when you think about sustainability, you think about barrier to entry, we've had other software platforms who would like to license our software because their biggest inflection point for their customers is we aren't integrated into the scale. And unless you can get that digital all the way, waste management, who's investing a ton of money in sustainability, can only track it from the scale into the landfill. They can't track it from the site. And when I talk about OEMs, GM, Ford, they all care about my site to the landfill. So that's where we're really.
So are we going to be able to get some?
I think that's a great Q&A for our snacks and beverages time at the end.
Yeah.
Justin Turk.
Justin.
And I've asked Justin to stick around for just a couple minutes before he goes to Pittsburgh. That's a drive I make frequently. Updates from other presenters. Excuse me a second, John. Yeah, thank you. Better Frost, which did a presentation for us 2 years ago. Derek Redding is the CEO. This is pulsed high voltage for defrosting windows in EVs. Turns out defrosters really suck a lot of that battery. They are doing a deal with the tier 1 that's doing defrosting for the Toyota BZ4. That's their EV SUV that launched this year. And it won't be on this rev of the BZ4, but they're shooting for the next rev of the BZ4. And we'll have an announcement for us, hopefully at the April meeting. That's Better Frost. Catalyst XL is next month rolling out a pilot with 2,900 Chevy dealers in the United States. This is the biggest bite they've ever taken. They're doing it in stages. They're not doing 0 to 2,900. But the plan is to get to 2,900 in 2 years. That would make them far and away Catalyst's biggest customer, and Catalyst has been beating its own aggressive growth numbers quarter by quarter. CQ Foods, who we heard from last year, just came back from the big Boston Fish Show with a bunch of new sales and a bunch of new initiatives that are addressing technology concerns about frozen fish and about who would get access to the data on fish freshness that comes out of their handheld fish sensor. Cognition got a ton of feedback when they were here in November from both from angels and from VCs. That caused them to go back and sharpen the pencil on their raise. It is now a 6 million raise, 5 million raise with a 6 million pre. It's still a 40% of the company sale, but it's a sale that is looking for a bigger bite for a lead investor. And I think if we are successful in identifying that lead investor, there's going to be a bunch of sidecar and drag-along opportunities for angels. Inspired Solutions was here last month, and right after Denise Kay gave her presentation, the EPA came out with the PFAS standard. That's basically a license for the PFASigator, her device that destroys PFAS in wastewater. It's a license to sell. Before she was saying, you really need this. Now they got the EPA saying, you really need this. Seems to be a theme today. Passable, which is presented to us in 2020, just did a big deal with ZK Teco, which is a big manufacturer of biometric doors. Passable does a cloud infrastructure for keyless entry, and partnering with Tech5's cloud and PDQ, which makes the steel door, they're going to be putting out several thousand passive bolt activated ZK Teco doors on secure facilities like banks and jewelry stores. And here's from last month, our favorite presenter, Claire Smith. She wasn't here. She had to phone it in last month because she was in Vermont taking that picture. She was in the factory giving birth to her new product, Tafola Bites. I actually visited with Claire earlier today without the hairnet. And they're having growth in both their distributor channel, that's with KE, and in their direct-to-consumer. But they're looking for an anchor investor here. This is a company that's grown on friends and family and has not taken OPM. This is an opportunity for that first investor, and we've already seen a couple first investor fruits today.
Whole Foods.
Whole Foods.
Talk to Whole Foods.
Whole
They
Foods.
invest
Ed
in
is going to hook
stuff.
them up
I
with
know
Whole
they're owned by
Foods.
Amazon. Whole Foods.
Oh, they're in Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah. No alphabetical list would be complete without Ulendo. Ulendo added Invest Detroit Ventures and Automation Alley to their icons for their current raise. Now remember, they're biting off pieces of Bell Capital, which Bell said that they would top this round. So every time a new investor comes in, that's less money from Bell. But guess what? That's the same raise, the same backstop that we enjoy as angel investors. And their CEO, Brenda Jones, is putting that money to good use. She's a gold sponsor of the Additive Manufacturing Users Group, where she is right now in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh? Chicago. Who's in Pittsburgh? This is Chicago. You're in Pittsburgh. Working on her second go-to-market channel, which is the aftermarket for folks who own 3D printers and want them to go faster and be more accurate. Her first pillar is the OEM market, and the OEMs are all there, but they're all selling. This is really the user show. Pointe Angels is an unusual angel group for a lot of reasons. Certainly the way that we engage with our accounts, the way that we scout screen the portfolio, and we're also really, really young. This group was started in 2019. When you see an update, when you see a venture presentation, as we did today from NOTA and Sniffer, when you participate in Point Angel's deal flow, you have the opportunity to also support Point Angels by sponsoring the group. And we have a new sponsor, our returning sponsor this month. So a ceremony that we enjoy every month is the Deal Bottle ceremony. When you join the ranks of the Point Angels investors and sign up to sponsor the group, you also get a drink from the Deal Bottle.
It's great. The blends.
It's
If you get all
blends.
13 little horses, if you get all 13 horses, you send them to blends, they send you a bottle.
And they send you, yeah,
That's great.
Ed, you want to start down this path? You know how to do it.
I will talk about it.
Okay, yeah. I'm looking at you, Scott.
Oh,
Did you close?
I closed.
Oh, then come up and get your drink.
Yeah, I did open my eyes with it, right? Wired money to Silicon Valley Bank. And
Oh!
A week later.
It's still there,
Yeah.
or wherever there is.
No, Thank you, Dave.
To Point Angels and to the success of our deals. I'd love to give you a preview of next month, but we haven't screened them yet. So see you back here on April 18th. Same bat time, same bat station, and we will see 2 more really interesting previews. Jim Agley, you've reminded me that I've forgotten something.
No, I just want to let you know, as you were going through the list of updates, I wanted to let you know that for Inspired, it looks like we're going to be investing. Yes. So
That's
very
great
good.
to hear.
You didn't know that.
I didn't know that before, and we will drink to you
So, yeah,
next
if
month.
anybody who's interested in getting up to speed on that, it's not too late. Contact me.
We have a pile of diligence in addition to what you've collected.
But I can fund that group in case somebody wants to catch up if they missed. last month.
Angels are famous for being herd animals, so up to run with their.
So are you in the deal?
I will be in it, yeah, it was 2 up as well as 2 up.
You read about that herd animal thing, I'm instantly more interested.
3 others.
Instantly.
Instant.
What's the name of the
You
company?
herd animal, you.
Everybody in the room's smarter than I am.
That is the secret reason why. we do this.
Exactly.
You
All
are
right.
aware of the bourbon named Angels Envy.
It's not as good.
Maybe we should do that. Right, that's pretty good too.
Founders and presenters, please do stick around because I had to cut off the Q&A. Now is the time to ramp it back up. Enjoy the terrific catering, the food, and the beverage service that was provided today by Dr. Chris George. Thank you, Chris. And the show's over, so go mingle.
All right.
I was wondering the same thing.